For more than 40 years, this old car sat forgotten inside a dark and dusty barn. The wooden doors were broken, and thin beams of sunlight slipped through the cracks in the roof. Dust floated slowly through the air, and the smell of old wood and rust filled the space. In the middle of the barn, hidden under layers of dirt and time, stood a once legendary muscle car, the Ford Mustang. Its paint had almost completely faded away. Thick rust covered the metal body, the tires were flat, and the windows were cracked. It looked as if time itself had abandoned the car. But today, that story was about to change. As the barn doors were pushed open wider, sunlight finally fell across the car's body, revealing its classic shape. Even under all the rust and damage, you could still see the powerful design that once ruled the roads decades ago. The team slowly cleared the debris around the vehicle. Old wooden pieces, broken tools, and piles of dust were carefully moved away. With every step closer, it became more clear that this Mustang had not moved for a very long time. The body was rough, the chrome was dull, and the engine bay looked completely lifeless. But hidden under all that decay was still the soul of a classic machine, waiting for a second chance. The first challenge was getting the car out of the barn. Heavy chains and a winch were attached to the front frame, and slowly the Mustang was pulled forward. The tires barely moved at first, almost stuck to the ground after decades of stillness. But little by little, the car rolled forward and finally emerged into the daylight for the first time in 40 years. Under the open sky, the full damage was now visible. Rust covered the hood, the doors were dented, and the engine compartment was filled with dust and corrosion. Still, the team saw potential where others might only see scrap. Once the car arrived at the workshop, the restoration journey truly began. Mechanics carefully inspected every part of the vehicle. The engine was completely seized, the wiring system had deteriorated, and many components were beyond repair. The suspension was weak, and the brakes were useless. However, the frame and body structure were still strong enough to rebuild. That meant this Mustang could be saved. The first major step was deep cleaning. Using a high-pressure washer, the team began blasting away decades of dirt and grime. Water sprayed across the rusty surface, washing away thick layers of dust and mud. Foam cleaner was applied across the entire body, and brushes were used to scrub every corner. Slowly, the original metal and faded paint started to appear again. It was the first sign that this car still had life left in it. After cleaning, the disassembly process started. The wheels were removed, old engine components were taken apart, and the interior pieces were carefully pulled out. One by one, the parts were laid out across the workshop floor. This step allowed the mechanics to see exactly what needed to be repaired and what had to be replaced. The Mustang was now completely stripped down, ready for rebuilding. Next came the repair stage. Rusted metal panels were ground down using power tools, removing years of corrosion. Some sections of the body were too damaged to save, so new metal panels were welded into place. Sparks flew through the workshop as the welders carefully restored the car's structure. Dents were hammered out and smoothed, bringing the body back to its original shape. Slowly, the car that once looked destroyed began to look strong again. With the metal repairs complete, it was finally time to prepare for painting. The entire body was sanded down to create a perfectly smooth surface. A protective primer coat was sprayed across the car to seal the metal and prepare it for its new color. Inside the paint booth, the transformation truly began. A fresh coat of deep, glossy red paint was applied using professional spray equipment. As the paint settled onto the body, the Mustang began to shine once again. The rust and scratches that once covered it were completely gone. After the paint had dried, the reassembly stage began. A rebuilt engine was installed back into the engine bay. Brand new suspension components were fitted, and polished chrome wheels were mounted onto the car. Inside the cabin, new seats, fresh upholstery, and restored dashboard components brought the interior back to life. Piece by piece, the Mustang was rebuilt into the powerful machine it once was. Finally, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The final reveal. The workshop lights turned on, and the restored Mustang slowly rolled forward. The glossy red paint reflected the lights beautifully. The chrome wheels sparkled, and the engine roared to life with a deep, powerful sound. It was hard to believe that this same car had spent 40 years abandoned in a dark barn. What was once forgotten and covered in rust was now become a stunning classic again. This wasn't just a restoration, it was the revival of a legend, a machine given a second chance of life. And as the engine echoed through the garage, it felt like time itself had been reversed, bringing this iconic Mustang back to the road where it truly belongs.